To the 2024 Diriyah E-Prix pre-race press conference. On stage we have team principals Sylvain Filippi from Envision Racing, Cyril Blais from Maserati MSG and Roger Griffiths from Andretti. Welcome gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree, pleasure to be back in Diriyah on a very interesting circuit for Formula E's only night race on the calendar. First of all, just the sentiment of reaction from Mexico looking ahead to this weekend from each of you, starting with you Roger.
Well, good afternoon everybody, and thanks for having us here. I think as far as the Andretti team goes, we were, whilst it was great to have both cars finish undamaged in the points, etc., finishing 9th and 10th is not where we really anticipate to be. We got pretty used to a solid run of podium finishes at the tail end of last season, and that's kind of where we expected to be. I think we missed a little bit on qualifying with the timing. We'd started on the front row in Mexico last year, didn't quite achieve that this time round, but looking forward to racing here tomorrow night and seeing if we can rectify that.
Sylvain?
Yeah, really great event as always in Mexico. Amazing fan attendance and really fantastic to be there. From our side, solid start. Cars competitive. Obviously first podium, really good with Seb. Robin obviously still adjusting and adapting to the new software and all the new systems we have in the car. But really pleased with the pace of both Seb and Robin. Robin was P1 in the quali group, and then and ultimately without the problem at the start would have done really well. So yeah, feeling really good about overall pace, car drivers, etc. So yeah, having said that, the big takeaway from Mexico is for sure how close the group is, more than ever. In qualifying, the top 4 were separated by less than a tenth of a second. So more than ever, making the duels is really important, but also very difficult. So yeah, I think we're in for a season of very exciting racing as always, but even more competitive, if it's even possible, than before. So yeah, should be exciting.
Cyril?
Yeah, it's been a very good weekend for us as well. First weekend of the year, so you're always wondering what you're going to be compared to those guys. The one lap pace was very strong. Max topped the group. Solid race as well. We're a bit disappointed on missing on the podium. It would have been a great. We're back? Okay. So you're just not that interested of what I have to say, but back on the beginner. Yeah, no, so it was great race for Max. Just a shame missing on the podium. We had great pace in the race. I think strategically we could have done a bit better. We got a bit teamed up from the 2 Jack behind, did a better job than us. And for Gian, it's been a great weekend as well. We know how tough it is to be a rookie in Formula E. We give him clear objective was to get mileage and experience, no mistake. That was the main goal, and he did exactly that. Finished the race. His pace was okay in the race. We know there's a lot of room for improvement, but we know how tough it is for a rookie to come to Formula E. So we got the first weekend out of the way, no mistake, and now we can focus on performance. But very pleased to start the season with some strong points, and we have a very good one-lap performance. We know Mexico is not the best of track for us historically, so it was really great to start the season that way, and hope we can confirm in Riyadh this weekend.
Roger, coming back to you, slightly different start, I guess, in Mexico, as you mentioned yourself, on the run of a record number of podiums for Jake. Was that just as a result of the minor blip in quali, or is it a sign of truly stronger competition this season?
I think both things are true. I mean, the competition certainly was very, very strong towards the tail end of the season last year. I mean, I think we were lucky that we got out of the box really quickly. First few races of the season had a strong start to the championship run. But it's just the way Formula E is. You never know what you're going to achieve, and as Sylvain mentioned, it's so close, and you only miss making the duels by a tenth of a second, and suddenly you're starting P13, P14, which is where we ended up. With the early safety car, full course yellows that we had, it meant that the energy management wasn't quite as tough as it was. So the race turned into more of a flat out run, and that means it's always difficult to pass. And even though you potentially have a quicker car than the guy in front, it's high risk to try and make that overtaking move. And it just wasn't really. Once we got off the line well, made up 5 spots or so, I think we missed a little bit on the strategy with the attack mode. It was just, we were kind of set with where we were going to end up, and without taking a massive risk and potentially putting
ourselves in the wall out of contention, then that's where we ended up.
We'll just work the microphones back. Okay, so now looking forward to this weekend, in reflection to this time last year, there was 2 huge grid climbs for Jake, and Pascal, of course, in the Porsche power car as well. That was the most dominant powertrain at that point. Will this season here be as easy to make that up if required, especially when you look at the groups? I mean, in Jake's words, you've got qualifying group of hell versus the Sunday drivers. That being a very competitive quality A group.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to see those huge number of overtakes like we saw at the beginning of last season. I think everybody's gotten on top of the Gen 3 car. They understand the way the race is going to evolve. So I think unless you're starting top 8, getting on the podium is going to be a struggle from where we did last year. So I wouldn't anticipate coming through from a 13th, 14th, 15th place qualifying spot and finishing second like we did last year, twice in a row. So I don't think we're going to see those heroic moments, unfortunately.
Sylvain, moving on to yourself, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges of this circuit and that you might face as teams this weekend?
First, a really challenging but rewarding layout. So as you know, drivers have said before, they enjoy driving here. It's a big thrill. But of course, finding that fine margin of risk-reward in qualifying is a big challenge for drivers here. As we said, you cannot afford to give any tenths away in qualifying, but you can't put your car in the wall either. So it's a very fine line and big challenge for drivers on this track. And then of course the really dusty conditions. It happens here, and it's part of the nature of this track. But that means you've got really big track evolution, as well as kind of the unpredictability of the level of grip you're going to get. So yeah, keeps us on our toes, as well as a big engineering challenge and a big challenge for the drivers.
So with Mexico, you started off the season very well, as you said, with a podium, but also 3 Jaguar-powered cars in the top 5, which obviously a good sign for the package going forward. Now, add that and reflect on last season, where Seb had he had a pole position here, I think, at one of the 2 races. How are you going to convert that now into podiums, maybe even a win?
Yeah, exactly as Roger said, like qualifying is really important now. Of course, some exceptions where some tracks are easier to overtake, but really qualifying is important. And once we're qualifying, you've got at least 10 cars who've got really great race pace. So you need to be up there, and then obviously get your energy management right, get your attack mode strategy right, and if you do all of that, you will be in a good spot. But yeah, the beauty of a very competitive season like this, when everyone is so close together, you can't really make any mistakes anyway. So yeah, you'll see some surprises at some point for sure, because one little mistake somewhere is bound to happen at any teams, and then you'll find it very challenging.
Cyril, onto yourself. You mentioned about the qualifying pace and the race performance for Max in Mexico. A good place to start, seemingly that quali being even more crucial to success in Gen 3. Based on what the other 2 people to the side of you have said so far, do you think that you can bring the fight to the Porsche and Jaguar powered cars this season?
I hope so, that's why I'm here. It's very tough, and the competition is very strong, and the margin are getting smaller and smaller. So now everybody's getting on top of the Gen 3, learning a bit more about the package. And like it's been said before, you see in Mexico, a 10th in qualifying can turn your weekend upside down. There was a 10th between Max topping the group, and I think just over a 10th for guys who miss going to the duel. So you're starting in the top 8 and you're going to the duel. It's a totally different weekend that if you start P10, P12, P13, you win the pack, you're in a position to be involved in an accident. So First of all, it's very important to qualify well and be at the front. That's the first target of the weekend. We hope that we can bring the fight to those guys. The biggest thing for us is consistency. I think it sounds a bit cliche, but it's especially true in Formula E. For us last year, our high were very high, but our low were very low. And those guys, they're so strong because they don't have a buggy circuit. They're always there, they're that. And when they're not, they're P5, P6, P8, but they're never outside the top 10. And that's what we're aiming for this year. Like I said, when we were strong, we were very strong. In Jakarta, we were dominant. We're topping every session, on pole by 6/10. But then the next circuit, we're not making to the duel. Hello, we're back. And it's exactly like that. We need to be more consistent and making to the duel every weekend, and that's the objective. And we're confident that we make some progress over the winter. I think there's a bit of convergence, not the performance drop between teams are getting smaller, so details are very important, but we're confident that we can be challenging for the top position every weekend, especially on the one-lap pace. I think on the race pace we've got a bit more work to do still, but we're getting there.
So we've mentioned a bit so far about the ruthlessness of this circuit and how easy it is to make a mistake, and that mistake be very consequential. I think in terms of the teams in the paddock, you probably have had the worst luck here over the years, even going as far back as Venturi as well. Is that entering the mind approaching this race?
No, it can't be. You can't approach like that. And the beginning of the last year was a disaster for us. We scored 0 points, I think, in 6 races, crashing every session or close to it. But even last year, Max had an incident in qualifying 1, and you have to jump in the car the next day and try to perform. So we can't have that in the back of our mind. What we got in the back of our mind is we're competitive in Mexico. There's no reason why we shouldn't be here. And this track is a challenge. One of the biggest challenges of the season. It's my opinion. It's very dusty, track evolution is massive. You don't have a lot of runoff. Although Sector 1 is a high-speed flowing section. We see De Vries a couple of years ago, I think, crash in FP and then put it on pole. So you have to have that self-confidence as a driver, and it's the role of the team to make sure that the driver has that confidence and has the tools to be able to push in that one lap when it counts in qualifying. But I'm confident we'll be there on the one lap pace this weekend.
That was a couple minutes for questions from the room.